And the Buddha said, do not say that, Ananda, do not say that. This dependent origination is profound and appears profound. It is through not understanding, not penetrating this Dhamma, that this generation has become like a tangled ball of string, covered as with a blight, tangled like coarse grass, unable to pass beyond states of woe, the ill destiny, ruin, and the round of births and deaths. If, Ananda, you are asked, has aging and death a condition for its existence, you should answer yes. If asked, what conditions aging and death, you should answer, aging and death is conditioned by birth. What conditions birth? Being or becoming or existence conditions birth. Clinging conditions being. Craving conditions clinging or attachment. Feeling conditions craving. Contact conditions feeling. Mentality and materiality, nama-rupa, conditions contact. Consciousness conditions mentality and materiality. If asked, has consciousness a condition for its existence? You should answer yes. If asked, what conditions consciousness? You should answer, mentality and materiality conditions consciousness. Thus, Ananda, mentality and materiality conditions consciousness, and consciousness conditions mentality and materiality. Mentality and materiality conditions contact. Contact conditions feeling. Feeling conditions craving. Craving conditions clinging or attachment. Clinging conditions being or existence or becoming. Being conditions birth. Birth conditions aging and death. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and distress. Thus this whole mass of suffering comes into existence. Stop here for a moment. So here you see the Buddha talks about 10 links of dependent origination of suffering. Normally you find in other suttas the Buddha talks about 12 links. But here you find the Buddha talks about 10. The 2 links that are left out here is sankhara, volition, and avijja, ignorance. So you have 10 here. Normally we chant on dependent origination. Avijja paccaya sankhara, sankhara paccaya viññānaṁ, viññāna paccaya nama-rūpaṁ, nama-rūpa paccaya salayatanaṁ, salayatana paccaya paso, etc. So here looks as there's only 9, not 10. Even the salayatana, the 6 sense bases, are not here. So it looks like you can consider this dependent origination of suffering by these 9 links instead of 12. Further on. Okay, we continue and see. I have said birth conditions aging and death, and this is the way that should be understood. If, Ananda, there were no birth at all anywhere of anybody or anything, of devas to the deva state, of gandhabas, of yakhas, of ghosts, of humans, of quadrupeds, of birds, of reptiles to the reptile state, if there were absolutely no birth at all of all these beings, then with the absence of all birth, the cessation of birth, could aging and death appear? No, Lord. Therefore, Ananda, just this is the root, the cause, the origin, the condition for aging and death, namely birth. I have said, being conditions birth. If there were absolutely no being or existence in the world of sense desires, of form, or the formless world, could birth appear? No, Lord. Therefore, just this is the condition of birth, namely being. Clinging conditions being. If there were absolutely no clinging, sensuous clinging, clinging to views, to rules and rituals, to to identity view, could being appear? Craving conditions clinging. If there were absolutely no craving for sight, sound, smells, taste, tangibles, mind, objects, could clinging appear? Feeling conditions craving. If there were absolutely no feeling, feeling born of eye contact, ear contact, nose contact, tongue contact, body contact, mind contact. In the absence of all feeling, with the cessation of feeling, could craving appear? No, Lord. Therefore, Ananda, just this is the root, the cause, the origin, the condition for craving, namely feeling. And so, Ananda, feeling conditions craving, craving conditions seeking, seeking conditions acquisition, acquisition conditions decision making, decision making conditions lustful desire, lustful desire conditions attachment, attachment conditions appropriation, appropriation conditions avarice, avarice conditions guarding of possessions. And because of the guarding of possessions, there arise the taking up of stick and sword, quarrels, disputes, arguments, strife, abuse, lying, and other unskilled states. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha makes us understand how by logical thinking he could untangle these conditions of dependent origination of suffering. And then so at the bottom the Buddha says feeling conditions craving, craving conditions seeking, seeking is pariyesana, and seeking conditions acquisition, labha, acquisition conditions decision making, vinichaya, decision making conditions lustful desire, chandaraga, lustful desire conditions attachment, ajosana, attachment conditions appropriation, parigaha, appropriation conditions avarice, macharya, avarice conditions guarding of possessions, arakha. So because of that, to protect your possessions, then you take up the stick and sword, and quarrels and disputes, arguments, strife, abuse, lying, and other unskillful states arise. I have said, all these evil, unskilled states arise because of the guarding of possessions. For if there were absolutely no guarding of possessions, would there be the taking up of stick or sword, quarrels, disputes, etc.? No, Lord. Therefore, Ananda, the guarding of possessions is the root, the cause, the origin, the condition for all these evil, unskilled states. I have said, avarice conditions the guarding of possessions, etc. Appropriation conditions avarice, attachment conditions appropriation, lustful desire conditions attachment, decision-making conditions lustful desire, acquisition conditions decision-making, seeking conditions acquisition. I have said craving conditions seeking. If there were no craving, would there be any seeking? No, Lord. Therefore, Ananda, craving is the root, the cause, the origin, the condition for all seeking. Thus these two things become united in one by feeling. Stop here for a moment. How do these two things become united in one by feeling? Because of feeling, craving arises. And because of craving, why craving arises? Because of pleasant feeling. Feeling here refers to pleasant feeling. When you have unpleasant feeling, then you feel repulse, aversion. But when you have pleasant feeling, whether because of sights or sounds or smells or taste or touch or thoughts, then there is a tendency to crave for it, to want it again and again. And that condition seeking, etc. I have said, contact conditions feeling. Therefore, contact is the root, the cause, the origin, the condition for feeling. Mentality and materiality conditions contact. But whatever properties, features, signs or indications the mind factor is conceived of, this is mind factor is Dhammakaya or mentality body, you can see. The mentality body is conceived of. Would there, in the absence of such properties, features, signs or indications pertaining to the mentality body, would there manifest any grasping at the idea of the materiality body? No, Lord. Or in the absence of any such properties, features, signs or indications pertaining to the materiality body, would there be any grasping at sensory reaction on the part of the mentality body? No, Lord. Stop here for a moment. The mind had is conceived of. So here is saying whether it is the mentality body, that means a mental factor, something occurring in the mind, or the materiality body outside. Outside means materiality body can refer to form, can refer to sounds. Sounds also is part of the materiality, and smells, taste and touch. So these five senses refers to the rupa kaya. So whether it's because of pleasant forms or sound, sight, smells, taste, touch, and the mental part, anything in the thoughts, then would there be any grasping? Then because a sensory reaction here occurs when a sense object impinges on the sense base, meaning form or sound or sights or smells, taste, touch, impinges on the sense base, the eye, ear, nose, etc. So, by whatever properties the materiality body and the mentality body are designated, in their absence, is there manifested any grasping at the idea or at sensory reaction? No, Lord. By whatever properties, features, signs or indications the mentality body is conceived of, in the absence of these, is there any contact to be found? No, Lord. Then Ananda, just this, namely mentality and materiality, is the root, the cause, the origin, the condition for all contact. I have said consciousness conditions mentality and materiality. If consciousness were not to come into the mother's womb, would mentality and materiality develop there? No, Lord. Or if consciousness having entered the mother's womb were to be deflected, would mentality and materiality come to birth in this life? No, Lord. And if the consciousness of such a tender young being, boy or girl, were thus cut off, would mentality and materiality grow, develop and mature? No, Lord. Therefore, Ananda, just this, namely consciousness, is the root, the cause, the origin, the condition of mentality and materiality. Stop here for a moment. For a fetus in the mother's womb to grow, consciousness must come into it. In other words, the being to be born goes into the womb, and the egg, this consciousness develops in that egg, that fetus, and then from there the mentality and materiality of that fetus will grow. So the other thing you must bear in mind is mentality and materiality and consciousness are counterpart. They always come together and they cease together. When there is consciousness, mentality and materiality must be present. And when there's no consciousness, there's no mentality and materiality. Mentality and materiality are the objects of consciousness, so must always come together with consciousness. I have said mentality and materiality conditions consciousness. If consciousness did not find a resting place in mentality and materiality, would there subsequently be an arising and coming to be of birth, aging, death, and suffering? No, Lord. Therefore, Ananda, just this, namely, mentality and materiality is the root, the cause, the condition of consciousness. Thus far, then, Ananda, we can trace birth and decay, death and falling into other states and being reborn. Thus far extends the way of designation of concepts. Thus far is the sphere of understanding. Thus far the round goes as far as can be discerned in this life, namely to mentality and materiality together with consciousness.